comic book fans, I'm Jason and welcome to my comic book reviews for the 5th week of April 2015. 19 books to review this week, so the way we're going to do this, we're going to start off with Marvel, we're then going to review the Indy books, then it's going to be DC, pick of the week, and we're going to close the video with my company of the week. So without further ado, let's get to those reviews. So, we're going to kick things off with Marvel. As I said, we've got a whopping 10 books this week from Marvel. Which, like the last couple of weeks, those of you who've been watching my videos, my hauls from Marvel have been getting smaller. With this week, it's just like a whopping list. I'm all in Avengers hype mode at the moment. I've seen the film 3 times, bloody loved it every time. So, I've kind of been looking for something to read, Avengers-y, and something with Vision in as well, because he's one of my favourite characters. And so I decided to give this a whirl from a few months ago. This is Uncanny Avengers issue number 1, written by Rick Remender with art by David Acuna. The basic gist of this story is, coming out of Axis, the big reveal was that Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are not Magneto's children. So they have gone to Counter Earth to try and get answers into where they come from and who they are. Because they've gone missing, we've got Rogue, who is as the consciousness of Wonder Man inside her, and she kind of, because Wonder Man's got major love for Scarlet Witch, so she wants to find out what's happened to Scarlet Witch. She puts a team together. We have Avengers, Captain America and Vision. We have Dr. Voodoo, who provides the magic that they may need, and also they bring in Sabretooth as a tracker. And their journey takes them to Counter Earth, where our issue kind of ends up with all our heroes in peril. I enjoyed this. I really did. I didn't expect to enjoy this as much as I did, because my brain still tells me that Sabretooth and Rogue are X-Men. They're not Avengers. They're X-Men. And I can't, like, however much I enjoyed the previous Uncanny Avengers, I just can't kind of accept them as X-Men. I think that as Avengers, sorry, I see them as X-Men still. I think with Sabretooth, with him trying to kind of be a good guy now and trying to atone for the sins of the past, while at the same time live up to the legacy of Wolverine, I just think there would have been so many more interesting stories to tell with Sabretooth as a member of the X-Men. And there's so much more history there, and it would, I think, have been a much more interesting kind of environment for him than putting him in this book. Likewise with Rogue, I still see her as an X-Man, and I think there's so much history there that you could do interesting things with. So yeah, I'm not totally convinced having them in the book, but I felt I liked this issue. It had to bring the team together, and it feels very organic, and you know where the book's going, and I enjoyed that. My favourite thing about the book was the art. It's really interesting having an artist who doesn't just do the pencils, but he inks it and he colours it as well, and it's a very unique look and style that I just really enjoy. You know, and with it being on Counter Earth, where everybody seems to be kind of like humanoid animals, so that gives him something really interesting to kind of draw. And he does also draw a pretty mean Vision. So yeah, I liked this issue. I enjoyed it. I thought it sets up the series really well. I'll definitely be checking out the next issues of it to see if I continue to like it. But I'm going to give Uncanny Avengers issue number 1 4 stars out of 5. So moving right along, we have, from this week, we have Avengers issue number 44. This is the conclusion to the series. There's part of me that's kind of a bit peed off that this whole series that we've been following since, I think it was 2012 this started, that the end is to set up another series, being Secret Wars. So there is part of me that is kind of a bit like that we didn't get a complete story, but then in a way we do get a complete story, because where the first issue began with Steve Rogers and Iron Man, this issue ends with Steve Rogers and Iron Man as they backlight out. There's a great wraparound cover that I really like, that kind of gives you the gist, and I did like that we ended with them, and they even used some of the wording for the scene from the first issue to kind of set that final scene up. So I liked that. I thought that was really good. There's a great moment in this book for Black Panther, as most of the issue is kind of everybody getting ready for the end of the world. You know, there's going to be this final incursion, and that's going to be it. And they're making their final plans, and that's where most of the issue is. And Steve Rogers chooses to use his last moments to try and kill Tony Stark. But there was a great moment with Black Panther and the President that I really liked, because like the governments of the world kind of turned their back on Wakanda and gave it to the Cabal, this group of villains who were going around destroying the different Earths that were coming through the incursions. And so they were saving the 616 Earth. So they turned a blind eye and let them have Wakanda. And even though they destroyed that civilization that was on that all the people and everything. So Black Panther has a really great line when they ask him, isn't there nobody that can help them? And he's like, yeah, there was a place that could have helped you, but you chose to give it to some maniacs and who destroyed it. So yeah, I liked that moment for Black Panther. All in all, I enjoyed this. I just had mixed feelings that, you know, it's just to lead into Secret Wars. But Hickman does do a good job, at least, of like having top and tail in it with the two characters that started it. They're the ones that we see at the end. So I like that. I'm going to give it 4 stars out of 5. Next up, we have New Avengers issue number 33. This is also the final issue. Basically, this issue just deals with Doctor Doom, as he's decided the only way to beat the incursions is to become a god. So he's basically using the Molecule Man and work with Doctor Strange to set up this religion. And it's a really interesting kind of issue, that this journey. There's some big ideas in here that at times are difficult to follow, but he doesn't leave any stone unturned. He answers all the questions and wraps everything up beautifully, and I really like that about Hickman. Even though sometimes I feel an idiot when I'm reading his stuff, because you really have to concentrate to get everything. It's not one of those books you can read while doing something else. It's one of those books that I'll make sure that I'm going to read in bed when I know I can concentrate on it 100%. I wouldn't be cooking the dinner and reading this in between, because you need to concentrate 100%. But what I love about Hickman, he does answer everything. He's meticulous and leaves you satisfied at the end. Really enjoyed this. Loved Mike Delgado's art as well. There was some really great art throughout this book that I really liked. I found it and then I've lost it again. Here he is. We've got this scene here where we're showing the different Doctor Dooms from the different universes, which I like, in the different Molecule Mans. Yeah, overall, this was a very satisfying conclusion, and I'm going to give New Avengers 33 4 stars out of 5. We then, speaking of conclusions, we have All New Captain America, number 6, which concludes the first arc. Baron Blood is gonna use the blood that he's digested from that Inhuman child to kind of make everybody on the planet infertile, and only a Hydra agent will be able to have babies. Captain America is trying to stop him. So we have a great conclusion here. It wraps up everything really satisfying, while at the same time leaving us with some questions going forward that hopefully will push the next arc. Nomad dies again, but again we don't get no body, so it's kind of like, we've seen him come back from the dead twice already, so I'm kind of like, I won't be surprised when he does it again. He's quickly becoming like Kenny from South Park. He's becoming that type of character in this book, that he just keeps getting killed but then he comes back. And I'm really hoping that plot point is going somewhere, and that you know, there's going to be something about him, which would be interesting to say the least. So yeah, all in all, very satisfying conclusion to the first arc. Like where it's going, and I'm going to give All New Captain America issue number 6 4 stars out of 5. So next up we have Silk issue number 3, as she takes on the new enhanced Dragon Claw. And I liked how that story went, and her battle with him. That was really good. And at the end she gets her butt kicked by Catwoman and makes strategic retreat. and that line, the end of the issue, I'm kind of interested to see where that's going to go. That is an interesting kind of direction that they're going to go with the book. I like the villain here, and I kind of Marvel are doing this a lot lately, where the villains are quite like, they're not like these evil kind of people, that they're people that are just gone on this wrong path, and they're doing bad things but for good reasons, and that's what Dragonclaw is here. And I think Marvel are doing a really good job with some really interesting villains, and the motives of these villains have been really interesting, so I like that. The art for me, this I like, but it has a very kind of manga feel. I haven't read a lot of manga, but it does very much female characters very much in manga and anime have those big eyes, and the way that Silk is done in this book, she has the same kind of a thing here. She has like the big eyes. So yeah, all in all, I enjoyed this. I thought it was a really good book. Really interested in Silk as a character, and I'm interested where they're going to go. The end of the issue was interesting, and I'm going to give issue number 3 of Silk 4 stars out of 5. So next up, we've got Daredevil, issue number 15. I'm up to about episode, I think me and my wife, we watched the other night, watched episode 5, so I think we're on episode 6 next. And I'm really enjoying the TV show of Daredevil, so I was really interested to read this. The cover absolutely in no way relates to the story, and I just don't understand what's going on with the cover, because it totally does not relate to what's inside. The issue inside though is bloody awesome. Daredevil and the daughter of the owl, Jubilee Pride, have located a father, the owl, who's been kept by the Shroud, and he's using him for some kind of bizarre thing. Daredevil and Jubilee Pride are in trouble, so they escape, and then the Shroud reveals that he's using the owl to monitor all of California, and every single device that you have that can record images, he can get access to. So there's no way you can hide from the Shroud as he continues to look for his woman. And so that he uses this now because he knows Daredevil's going to go up against him, and he just brings down Daredevil's world. I'm not going to go into everything that he does, but he just destroys Daredevil's world. He's public enemy number 1 now in San Francisco, and the end of the issue means Daredevil basically has to make a deal with the devil, because he's just been so destroyed by the Shroud. It is awesome. It was a fantastic issue, a fantastic journey. It's a shame that this book hasn't been talked about as much as the previous run was, from the same creative team. But yeah, this was bloody brilliant. Really enjoyed it. Daredevil, issue number 15, 5 stars out of 5. Next up, we have Silver Surfer, issue number 11, and this issue is a very experimental issue, as we have this story that kind of, you have, like, it kicks off like this, and you read the top half, and then we get to a point in the story, you read the top half of the story, then you get into a point in the story, which I'm probably not going to be able to find, where the story kind of flips, and you go back the way you came. It's really interesting how they do it. And so, like, the story, the basic gist of the story is that they're trapped in this thing where they're just basically the same things are happening and they're repeating it. So similar things are happening, and so, like, the way that they've told it kind of really lets you experience that they're in this thing, and you have to kind of, you know, so you follow that thread, and then that will take you round, so you'll come back the other way. Really, really clever how they've done this and how they've set it up, and I really liked it. I can understand some people saying maybe it's a bit of a novelty, but I'm always a fan of people that take risks and try something a bit different. It might not always work, but I'm always going to give you, you know, credit for, like, at least trying something different. And it's so difficult to be original and come up with something different. I wouldn't want to see a story every month like this. However, as like a one-off, I think it's a really cool idea, and I really enjoyed it. apart from that as well, it was just a really good, satisfying story. Really loving what Slott and Aldred are doing with Silver Surfer, and I give Silver Surfer issue number 11 5 stars out of 5. So moving right along now, Inhuman issue number 14. Lineage is kind of laying out his plans this issue, and things are getting a bit bad for our heroes. I did feel reading this issue, it's really coming into its own now. Soul has spent these 14 issues introducing these characters to us, and now we're kind of like, we care about them. So now he's kind of throwing them in deep peril, and it's working, and the story just really seems to be clicking into place. And I'm really excited because, like, it concludes next issue, the annual that comes out next week. This is where this whole story concludes. So I'm, for the first time, really excited for the next issue. I've enjoyed it going through, but it's never been a book where I've been super excited to see what happens next. But this issue, next issue, I really am, and so it's just a real great job that Soul has done here. Really enjoyed this. I'm really intrigued to see what Lineage's plan is and how it's all going to turn out. This issue, there were some great moments here amongst the team. The art, I don't know. I had mixed feelings on the art, but I like how there's some things that are kind of tying back to the beginning of this series. You know, as it feels like definitely the story's not going to be left undone. And I'm really liking as well, we've got Karnak, and he's kind of, Karnak's trapped in hell, or Inhuman hell, and so like that's really interesting. All in all, this is just a really good book. It's one I would probably, because it's coming to an end, it's one definitely worth thinking about maybe getting in trade so you read it all the way through. I think it would be really enjoyable. But I'm going to give Inhuman issue number 14 5 stars out of 5. So our penultimate book this week is the final issue of Fantastic Four, issue number 645, the final extra-sized conclusion. Yeah, it was a satisfying conclusion. It wraps everything up, answers a lot of stuff. My favourite moment, there's a really cool moment for the Frightful Four and the Wizard in this, so that was my favourite moment. I really like that. But the rest of the story, yeah, it wraps things up satisfactorily. Everything gets resolved that you hope would get resolved. It wasn't extra special. It was alright. You know, it did what it needed to do. My question is, it's an extra thick issue. We have like these mini stories at the end dealing with the different characters. So we have like one story for the Human Torch. We have one story with the Invisible Woman and Franklin. We have one story with the Thing, and a story with Mr. Fantastic and Valeria, and they're okay, but I didn't think they really added anything more. I did really like this bit with the covers where they have different writers and artists all saying like what their favourite Fantastic Four cover was. I thought that was a really good article, and like, yeah, I really like that. Thought that was really good. But the mini stories at the end, I think you could have done without, and had an issue that maybe, you know, this was $5.99. You could have maybe charged $1 less and not have those stories, because none of them really added anything extra to the main, like, this is the main story and how that concludes. Like I say, overall it wraps everything. I think Robertson does a good job of wrapping everything up that we followed, and I think reading the story as a whole probably would be very satisfying. But I just felt with the extra size stuff, I think we could have easily knocked a lot of stuff out of this and had it $1 less. Overall, yeah, it goes out with a bit of not such a big bang as you'd have liked. But I'm going to give it to Fantastic Four, issue 645. I'm going to be generous, give it 4 out of 5. But if I was doing halves, it would probably have been a 3.5. But because I don't do halves, I'm going to give it 4 out of 5. So our final Marvel book of the week, it is Star Wars Princess Leia, issue number 3. So we're halfway through the series. Leia is going around with this character called Ivan and R2-D2, trying to find survivors from Alderaan because the Empire are hunting them down, because, you know, they basically, I think they want to draw Leia out, so they're going after all Alderaanians to kind of draw Leia out. So Leia's going round, and this issue takes to Solist, and the characters she meets in this issue, they're very much different to the other Alderaanians we've met. They have been affected, they don't trust no one, so they kind of, Leia being open lets them check all their stuff, and they see that somebody's been communicating with the Empire. So Leia has a spy on the camp, which we already knew, but she didn't, and which puts her and Ivan in a really bad situation. The Empire turn up, and these Alderaanians think that they're spies, and they kind of have to win the trust back of the Alderaanians, while at the same time managing to survive and get the Alderaanians out of there, away from the Empire. I enjoyed this. I thought it was good. Things seem to be coming to a head, and it's going to be interesting where we go the next two issues. Yeah, I'm enjoying this a lot more than I thought I would. It's been good, and I'm going to give Princess Leia issue number 3 4 stars out of 5. So there we go. Those are my Marvel books. Next up, we're going to do the indies. So here we go now with the indie reviews. Only 3 indie books this week, and one of those is from last month. First up we have The Black Hood, issue number 2. I believe that's a variant cover. I didn't get the original cover, but I was just glad to be able to still get issue 2. I liked issue 1, but at the time I wasn't sure I had space on my pull list for it. But like with a lot of books finishing, I've kind of projected ahead, and in June, July, I kind of will have room. So I've kind of gone back to try this and see what it's like. And I really enjoyed this issue a lot more than the first. This issue we have our character Greg Hettinger. He, from the first issue, for those that have not read this book, it's about a guy called Greg Hettinger. He's a policeman. His face gets disfigured in the first issue when a rifle kind of explodes in his face, taking out these bad guys who have been fighting this character called the Black Hood. And he fires while being blinded, and he kills this vigilante, the Black Hood. And some people think he's a hero, some people think he's a scumbag. But he's living now with this pain every day of his life from his face that's burnt. And he's having to learn to talk again. And even though he's become a policeman again, he just doesn't feel the same. And he becomes addicted. He takes, they do this bust of this drug bust, and he keeps the drugs from the bust, and he starts taking them and putting this black mask on because it allows him to escape the pain and of his face, and the fact that also that he's disfigured. Last issue ended with his speech therapist calling to his house while he's had these drugs and he's got the mask on, so he escapes out the window only to come across a mugging, and now he's got this mask on, and what's he going to do? So this issue we get to see the first steps of him as the new Black Hood. We get to see the first steps of that, so that's really interesting. We also get to see the consequences to his actions from the first issue, that the things he's done aren't going to be unpunished. And this issue, his world does really start to collapse a bit, and it's going to be interesting next issue to see where he goes from this, because his drug addictions have just got worse in this issue, and things are really getting pretty dark. But now, you know, with things getting so bad, he's going to have to fight back, and it's going to be interesting. Issue 3 is going to be really interesting where his character is going to go. I really enjoyed it. I think the art really ties in beautifully to the tone of the story. As the art, you get this real dark kind of look from it, and I just love the style of it. I think the art really helps tell this really dark story and illustrates it really well. I felt this issue, I kind of empathized a lot more with our main character. The first issue, while you felt sorry for him in the one way, there was other ways you didn't quite, you know, sympathize with him totally. This issue, he's a much more sympathetic figure, and he's slowly come reading you around. So yeah, I enjoyed this. I thought this was really good. Definitely something worth keeping an eye on, and I'm going to give Blackwood issue number 2 5 stars out of 5. So the books from this week, we just got 2 indie books from this week. First up from Valiant, we have Quantum of Woody Must Die, issue number 4. This is the final issue of this mini-series. Thank goodness. I think out of the Valiant universe, I think Quantum and Woody are my least favourite characters. I just find Woody so annoying. Not funny, but annoying. And I really want something horrible to happen to him, but he always seems to just get away. I think this tied up it tied up events nicely in that it answered everything that we wanted answered. I think part of my enjoyment of it was mired because I just don't like the characters. I don't mind Woody Quantum so much, it's Woody I don't like. And there was a nice moment with Quantum and this gill he wanted to ask out, so I like that, but just Woody I just find a totally annoying character. So I think that really coloured my enjoyment of this book. The other thing as well, it didn't feel like a conclusion. It felt like this was an ongoing that was just going on an hiatus, because there's a lot of threads that are carrying on. There are some things that are wrapped up, so in that respect it's satisfying. But yeah, I'm just not really into these characters, so I'm going to give it 3 stars out of 5, which is probably as generous as I could be. Our final indie book of the week from Image Comics, it is Alex and Ada, issue number 14, the penultimate issue of the series. Alex and Ada are on the run, and what this does do is, like, Ada hasn't really been out in the world, so it really has the really nice moments between Alex and Ada throughout the issue. And for most of the issues, just the 2 characters again. And this is one of the things that always amazes me about this book, is it's so engrossing, yet the cast of characters is really small. This issue, I think we might have, like, that actually speak. We might have maybe 3 or 4 characters. But, like, you know, the whole issue is really engrossing of these 2 on the run, but Ada's experiencing life. And that leads to some really nice moments. The ending of the issue is heartbreaking, and I'm really interested to see how they're going to wrap it all up next issue. But this has just been a phenomenal series, and it just continues, and I give Alex and Ada, issue number 14, a definite 5 stars out of 5. Bloody brilliant stuff. So those are the indies for this week. Next up, we're going to go to DC Comics. So here we go now with the DC books for this week, and there's just 5 this week. We're going to kick things off with Convergence, issue number 4. This was a lot better. I don't know if it's because they kind of took the time with the last few issues to introduce these characters, but this issue was the first issue where it felt the story was really starting to move and get interested. We have some great moments between the Earth 2 Dick Grayson and Telos, and kind of very much the dynamic here of Telos. He's very much seemed like the Silver Surfer with Brainiac being Galactus. That seemed to be the dynamic that reminded me of here. And kind of Dick Grayson seemed to be penetrating and getting through to Telos before he dismisses him, but he did seem to be making leeway. Deimos isn't everything that we thought he was going to be, and this issue he leads to some great dialogue as he's like kind of steals this magic. And there's this great scene here at near the end of the issue where he goes, "I can see all of your timelines now, Jay Garrick. You were the first to encounter a breach in the multiverse in a life long ago. I understand why you are at the center of this now. You are the original heroes reborn, the first and now the last." So I really like that bit of dialogue, kind of tying this into, like, tying the history together. So I really like that. We introduced this character called Warlord, who I gather, I'm trying to find a page with him on. Who I gather is, here we have Warlord. There, I gather, like, I kind of remember this character from, like, reading, like, when I used to read Superman and Batman in the 80s, that there'd be pictures of him advertised. So I don't know if he's an old comic or if he's somebody like was action figures or whatever, but he seems to be an old styly character that I have a vague recollection of. So, you know, they're throwing him in there as well, so that's interesting, you know, for long-time DC readers. And the last page is really interesting of this issue, and I'm really intrigued to see where we're going to go from here. I still don't see how this is going to connect to like when the DC main books come back. But overall, yeah, I felt this was a lot better, and I'm going to give Convergence issue number 4 4 stars out of 5. So next up we have the only Convergence book, other book I picked up this week. It is Convergence, Justice Society of America, issue number 1. Their world has been under the... This is the Justice Society world, the Earth 2 as it used to be. Pre-crisis Earth 2 Metropolis, this is basically. And what's happened is they've not got their powers, so they've begun to age, and they're all kind of getting quite old, and they're kind of having to deal with the fact that they can't be heroes anymore because they're all old. So like a lot of the issue is showing how they've dealt with this, which I found really interesting. I think it's a book, I think younger readers might find this boring because there's not a lot of action. It's a very much character driven issue about these guys and how they're dealing with not being able to be heroes anymore. And kind of in a way you think about it, when you're in your 20s, you kind of are like a superhero anyway. You can do so much and you bounce back from things a lot quicker. When you get older, to like your late 30s and your 40s, you find it difficult to bounce back from things. For example, I can remember when I was in my 20s, I could stay up on a Friday. We used to have like, it used to be wrestling night here in the UK. You'd have the 3 hours of Monday Nitro that they'd show on the Friday, Monday Night Raw, 2 hours of that, that's 5 hours, and also they showed 2 hours Thunder, WCW Thunder. So there'd be like 7 hours of wrestling, and I would sit up and I would watch all of it. And then there'd be a football talk show that would be on after Raw, so I'd sit up and watch that as well, and that's another hour. So like you're talking there about 8 hours. I'd sit up, I'd go to bed, I'd get up, go to the football, have a drink, go to the football, come home, have a quick snooze on the sofa, go out drinking, come home early hours of the morning, go to bed, get up, go to work, and then come home and have a snooze on the sofa in Sunday afternoon. I could not do that now. I could not do half of that now without really needing a really long nap. And that's what I talk about. In a way, you kind of, as younger, you are in some ways like a superhero in that you recover a lot quicker. So I've kind of really found that interesting here. And as I kind of am growing older and I'm starting to get aches and pains and not be able to do everything or recover as quick as I used to, I really empathise with these characters and what they're going through. Where I think if you're a younger reader maybe reading this that haven't gone through that yet, I don't know if you'd enjoy this story as much. But I, like I say, really enjoyed it, and it ends up really good with with them like one last fight, which I really liked. Yeah, so this I really enjoyed. Again, it's another one of these Convergence books that introduced me to versions of characters that I really liked. I hadn't read much of before, but I really liked, and I wouldn't mind this book as an ongoing. We're not going to get it, but it's another one to add to the list, and I'm going to give Convergence, the Society of America, issue number 1, 4 stars out of 5. So next up we have Superman, issue number 40, and this was a really fun issue. It's an easy book to follow if you've not been reading Superman. Basically he's got this new power, this kind of flare that he can launch, but the downside of it is it leaves him for 24 hours as a human being. He's vulnerable. He has no powers and he's vulnerable. So he goes to the Justice League to get them to help him to kind of learn more about this, how to control it, but also kind of the effects of this that it has on him. So we get some really interesting scenes, some fun scenes, things like he goes out drinking and he gets drunk, because usually Superman can't get drunk, but here he's human, so he can. So I really like that. There was a really fun issue, really easy to follow. It's not like big on events, but there is an event at the end that is gonna lead to where the story's gonna go next. It's an exciting time to jump on board Superman because there's some interesting stuff coming up. This was fun. I know John Romita's art isn't for everybody, but one thing I do like about his art is it's very unique. You know when you open up a book that it's John Romita Jr. So I like that about him. And I'm going to give Superman issue number 40 4 stars out of 5. Looking forward to seeing where that's going to go. Next up we have, and that's our penultimate book for the review for DC this week. It is Justice League issue number 40. This is the prelude to the Darkseid War storyline. That's the next big storyline from Justice League. The last arc, the Amazo Virus, really, Justice League reached the heights, consistent heights it's not reached before in the New 52. And it's a great time to be reading Justice League because the book is really coming into its own. When I opened this up and I saw how many artists were on this book, I was kind of like, God damn, that is going to be insane. You know, you look at that box there, how many artists we've got, I'm thinking that's going to be insane. Basically what this story is, it sets the whole kind of Darkseid War up, and we're introduced to this character of Metron. This character here, he's Metron, and he's basically kind of like the Watcher as he watches things and gathers knowledge, and he's trying to avert this war, and he gives us the whole history of everything that happened on these worlds, and this is where the artists come in, as we have the history. Like some of these double page spreads here and stuff, I wouldn't mind as like posters. They look blooming awesome, you know. Really great stuff going through your DC history, which is really great to see, all the way up to the current day and the beginnings of the New 52, and how this Justice League come together. And then we're introduced to the Anti-Monitor. Really good issue, sets up the Darkseid War, really great. Another great issue, really great stuff. Great usage of all those different artists, and I give Justice League issue number 40 5 stars out of 5. Really good at the moment. So our final DC book of the week in this review section, it is Batman issue number 40. I got the variant, the movie cover variant. I've really been enjoying these movie cover variants, and yeah, it's a takeoff of The Mask, but yeah, I really like, you know, I'm not a big one for variants, but I do like some of these variants that DC have been doing, how they have a theme each month to their variants. I like. This is the conclusion to Endgame, which has been this big story with the Joker, and as it should, it comes down to just a big massive fight between Batman and the Joker. Really great fight, feels epic, it feels like a final showdown like it should, and that was really great. I was really pleased they do not reveal the Joker's origin here, because that was one of the things I was worried about, that we were going to get a definitive origin for the Joker, but I think it would take something away from his mystique, and I was really glad that they didn't, and I think that would have been a mistake. That's where they started to go wrong with Wolverine, when we kind of got all of his history, because it took something away from the character, and he changed the character as well, because now he had that knowledge, he had a certain piece, so he changed from who he was. So I was really pleased that they didn't do that with the Joker. My only kind of gripe, the art again is fantastic in this book, and I'm really excited for the future and where this book's gonna go. My only kind of gripe was the ending, kinda what happened with a couple of characters. It kind of felt like, yeah, we've seen this before, and it's not even that long ago since we've seen it before. So there was that kind of thing, and I don't know if that's just me, but there was that kind of thing that stopped me from really fully being engrossed and blown away from it, and that's why this isn't my pick of the week. And I don't know why that was. I don't know if that's just me being a cynical fan, or if it is something that's been done too often, that you do something like that too often, it lacks the impact. But all in all, I really enjoyed this, and I'm definitely excited for the future, and I give Batman issue number 40 5 stars out of 5. So those are my reviews. Next up, we're going to do our pick of the week. So here it is now, it is time for pick of the week, and our pick of the week this week is from DC Comics, and it is the Multiverse issue number 2. This was brilliant. I went into this series, I love kind of alternate universes. That's something that's always fascinated me. So like the idea of this book interested me, but I wasn't a big Grant Morrison fan. I was a bit scared of his books because often there was stuff that I read of his that just lost me. So I kind of was a bit intimidated, a bit scared to read it because it was Grant Morrison. But after hearing like talk that it was good, I kind of dived in, and I'm really glad I did because I've really enjoyed the journey of this book. I'm definitely looking forward to some point in the future reading it all together because I think it's going to read really great, reading it one after the other. I think it's going to read great. This was a very satisfactory conclusion. It wraps the story up nicely, brings everything full circle, but at the same time Morrison finds some time to have a bit of fun. We get some great character moments. There are some really standout characters in this that I really liked. For me, Captain Carrot was just fantastic. Also really liked Red Racer. So that was all really good. But he ends it really nicely and leaves you at the end hungry for more. I wouldn't mind another volume of Multiversity because this was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. At times the story is a bit complex and I don't know if on my first read through if I've grasped everything, but I think I got enough of the story to understand it. I do think it's one of those books that if you go back and probably reread those first issues and you read it through like in kind of like a couple of days, I think it's one of those stories you'll see develop that I think would give it a different kind of feel than reading it like separated. But yeah, this is definitely a book I'm going to reread a lot. I really enjoyed this. It was a fantastic conclusion, very imaginative story, big ideas, but also it didn't get so big that you got away from the characters, and there were some great character moments in the book. So yeah, overall I really enjoyed this, and I make The Multiversity issue number 2 my pick of the week for the 5th week of April 2015. Congratulations, you've made it to the end of my video. It is now time to see who is the company of the week. What this is, for anybody who's new out there to my videos, I take, like for example, the Marvel books, I add the scores together, I divide it by the number of Marvel books that I've read, and that gives me an average rating for their books. I do the same with the Indies and with DC, and then we see who come out best to see who is the company of the week. So this week we had a tie for second place between two, 4.3 average rating. Marvel and the Indies, they both got a 4.3, so they tied for second place. So our winners, therefore, with a rating of 4.5, was DC Comics, which was a very good week for DC this week. There were some really good DC books coming out this week. So there we go. That's pretty much everything I've got to do now. Thank you very much for watching my video. Really appreciate it. If you did enjoy this video, give me those beautiful thumbs up to let me know you like what I'm doing. I will be back with more reviews next week and hopefully a haul video. So yeah, that's me pretty much done. I'm going to go now, have a nice cold beverage while this video uploads. I'm going to have a nice cold beverage and read some more comics. I've been Jason. These have been my comic book reviews. Bye for now.